Hi, I'm Dr. Sylvia Peregrino, and this is Entre Nosotras, Latina Voices. Today, I'm honored to have Judge Robert Anchondo from County Criminal Court Number 2, which is the DWI Intervention and Treatment Program. And we're joined by the judge and some of his staff that make this program possible in our community. Welcome, Judge Anchondo.
Well, thank you so much for the invitation. I really appreciate the opportunity to be part of this program.
And thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be our guest. And so, let's start out by talking a little bit about what the program is and how it first came into inception, and then to talk a little bit more about the people that work with you.
Well, the people that are here are Ms. Linda Potts, who is our adult community supervision officer, better known as a probation officer, very instrumental part of what we do in the criminal justice system. We have Ms. Cristina Esparza, who also is a very important, integral part of what we do, because she is the one in charge of our clinical, our counseling, our treatment. So her job is, of course, to develop a continuum of care and treatment of how we start changing these people's behavior. This program, very proud to have created a program of this magnitude. And it was just an idea about 20 years ago in the planning stages. And it was developed as a result of what they called back then drug courts. It was a vision of a judge in Miami-Dade, Florida, along with a public defender and a prosecutor. And the idea was they were seeing a very serious cocaine problem in their community. And what they did is, whatever was going on, they wanted to develop something that will make an impact and hopefully make a turnaround from these people that were suffering from the use of cocaine. And as a result, in 1989, or 1988 into 1989, the drug court model was created. And that's what this is all about. It's a drug court model. And it is created to be a non-adversarial type of program. In other words, it's devised because it has a plan, it has requirements, it has structure, and it is going to be identifying changing behavior. Well, I had the opportunity back in 2003 to be invited from the first adult drug court program here, which was then presided by our Honorable David Guadarrama, who is now our federal district judge. And so he invited me to sit in on a few of his sessions and actually preside over the program. Well, as everything comes to fruition, I started thinking, maybe we want to deal with this with the alcohol situation, because I deal with a lot of DWIs. And I was seeing a lot of people coming before me. And therefore, I started in my mind how we can address our serious DWI problem that we have in our community, as well as other communities and around the country and around the world. And so the DWI intervention program was then created back in November 2004, and we actually started with one participant, I still remember. And that participant actually is doing very well 20 years later. What I needed to do at that time was, of course, then create a team such as Ms. Potts, Ms. Esparza, law enforcement, public defender, treatment providers, life skill providers, coordinators, just a good amount of folks that you can put together that form a discipline. And now we're going to be dealing with how we're going to be changing this individual. Our program deals with repeat offenders. These are the folks that they've done it several times, and they haven't learned from either jail or from actually community supervision, which is probation. As a result of that, many, many things came into place about a program of this nature and how these folks get involved. It's a post-adjudication. In other words, people plea to an offense. Basically, it could be a high amount, which is a BAC, which is a blood alcohol content of, say, 0.15 or more, which is almost 2 times the legal limit. Or they've now committed their second, or now they've committed their third, which is now a felony here in the state of Texas. And so it's based on a referral process. It's usually done by other courts referring cases to our program. Or it could be us determining that someone is not doing well or that they meet that criteria for entering the program. Where Ms. Potts and Mrs. Esparza come in, of course, if they come in and they're placed on community supervision, Ms. Potts is going to be supervising, making sure that they're following the program requirements and supervision program. So she has her own supervision plan. Ms. Esparza comes into play when we've determined that some of maybe the crimes they've committed are a fit for a program. Then we're going to be sending them over to now get a clinical assessment by Mrs. Esparza, so she determines whether our resources are going to be able to help this individual clinically, counseling, treatment. Now, we do have some disqualifiers of folks not being able to come in, Certainly if they have
what would be some of the disqualifiers?
So like a murder conviction, that could be a problem. That could be a problem, but we look at it. Aggravated assaults, things of that nature. Not totally a disqualifier, but we're going to look at the circumstances. Why? Because I got a team, and I want to make sure they're safe. And I have officers, and they're going to be making visits to homes, so we want to make sure. Sexual offenses, we want to make sure that they meet that criteria. So this is why a team effort. So sometimes those could be disqualifiers. Sometimes a person that lives in another state, and our neighboring state here could be Las Cruces, New Mexico. Well, my jurisdiction doesn't go into New Mexico. My team can't go into New Mexico, so that may be a disqualifier. Mm-hmm. Somebody from Ciudad Juarez, again, we border this community with Ciudad Juarez. And if they reside in Ciudad Juarez, well, we can't go into their homes because we can't go into the jurisdiction. So those are many things that we have to look at to be able to address, first of all, the issue and whether they are fit for the program.
The judge briefly mentioned your role, but could you talk a little bit about your background or what you do within the program?
So I'm treatment. I meet with the clients that are referred, and I do an ASI, which is an alcohol severity index. It's an assessment. We talk to the clients, we see where they're at, we look at their history, legal, educational, employment, and substance use. And so from that, as well as family, from there we go ahead and decide whether they meet criteria for high risk, high need. At that point, we go ahead and I make my clinical recommendation. They do meet high risk, high need, or they don't. A lot of the times, you'd be surprised how honest some of the clients are, where they come and they tell you their long history of substance use, and a lot of the time we see that it starts at a very early age. And so the high risk, high need is there.
Your background is in psychology or counseling?
Yes.
Well,
so I have my degree in psychology. I actually got my associates with EPCC in the science of psychology. I continued my education in UTEP. And then the licensing. So that's kind of what I do. And I've been counseling now for approximately 3 years. I've been with the court for a year. And prior to that, I was a family service worker. So, I've in the people business, the helping out, advocating. And it's very important that we meet our participants where they're at. So we talk to them, we come, humble and let them know we're here to help versus we're here to catch you, right? And that's the stigma that I really, really appreciate from the court, and having that understanding that we're here to help. We want to help.
And I understand that this is a national program that has won, that there's only 4 programs in the whole country that won awards and recognition. So I appreciate that you're looking at it as a disease and as something that needs to be treated. Ms. Potts, could you talk a little bit about your role within the program?
Yes. First of all, I've been in the criminal justice system. I'm going now on 42 years there. I worked in New Mexico in the prison system, probation and parole, district supervisor. And here in El Paso, I worked with regular supervision for 10 years, and I've been with the judge for a little over 10 years as well. And my position is when the clients come in, what happens is they get interviewed first by our coordinator, and then after and it's about like a two-hour interview. And the next step is that they get placed with one of us probation officers there. So when they get placed with me, I also do a risk assessment with them. It's an assessment, and it'll take a good 2.5, sometimes 3 hours, depending on what their case is or how intense it is. After that, at that time, everyone is explained what the conditions of probation are. It's just what the judge would say, not only the program, but the conditions of probation, which they may be a court order from another judge. And then we go ahead and also go through the conditions that they have to go through in our program, because they have a handbook, which is thorough. And we go over that with them also. We obtain a complete background, such as who the families are, who are they, what their criminal background is, any type of trauma, all that. And that is then developed into a plan that we go ahead and work with them as to what goals they need to accomplish, which direction they need to go to. We supervise them by making sure that they report to the office when they're supposed to, as well as court. We do home visits. We'll go out there to the homes and find out what their family life is all about. We also test very frequently, urinalysis, either to the lab or in our office, and that's to make sure that they're not on drugs or drinking or anything like that. And we also get involved in the court system. When something happens, then we meet with the judge, and the judge will always hear them out to see what's going on, and we go from there.
And I understand it's DWI, it's alcohol, but it could also be drugs.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Now with New Mexico legalizing recreational marijuana, if you've seen an increase of people driving under the influence of marijuana or other drugs?
Well, we haven't had anybody stopped for that or arrested for that because it's so difficult. But I think if we keep up the level of testing that we're doing, they know we're on top of it.
So I know we've talked a lot about what the program entails or how people can qualify. You've mentioned that it's repeat offenders. Do they also have a choice if they want to do it or not want to do it?
Into the program, yeah, they do. I mean, let's say he comes from a felony, or he or she comes from a felony court, and that judge wants them to do the program. Sometimes they are court ordered and they have to do the program.
Okay.
Others say, no, it's too much, I don't want to do it. And so they have their attorneys that, speak to them regarding that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So good to know.
Yeah.
I'm also curious as to, maybe we could talk a little bit more about what are the different phases of the program.
Sure.
In our following segment.
Yeah, we can.
Absolutely.
Now, we're also going to be joined by Officer Ferrel of the El Paso Police Department, who works with the DWI Intervention and Treatment Program, who is also a member of the team. Welcome, Officer.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here in this program.
And so tell us a little bit about your background and how you became involved with this program.
That's a great question. Actually, I joined the El Paso Police Department back in 2000. I graduated from the academy in September of 2000, as a matter of fact. After 5 years of being a police officer, handling calls out on the street, any call that came my way, I felt confident handling them. The only call that I did not feel comfortable doing was drunk drivers. For whatever reason, I didn't feel comfortable doing that. Very technical. You have to know a lot of stuff to be able to prosecute those cases properly when you get to the court. So after 5 years, I said, I want to join the DWI Task Force, which is a unit within the El Paso Police Department that deals only specifically with DWIs. And I applied, and I joined the task force. In 2007, I had the opportunity to join the team with Judge Anchondo and become part of their team as a surveillance officer, basically going out to these participants' homes and making sure, holding them accountable that what they're saying is actually what they're doing. I go to their homes, make sure they're home. They have a curfew that they have to abide by. I do drug testing as well at home. I take pictures of conditions of home and report back to the court.
Could you tell us a little bit about usually what are the conditions that are required for somebody that's accepted into the program? Like what are no-nos that they shouldn't be doing?
That's a very good question, as a matter of fact. The first thing is they shouldn't be driving. If their license is suspended, of course, they should not be drinking or using drugs. Most of the participants that we have in the program are poly users. So we have to take that into account. We have to be testing regularly, making sure that they're there, making sure that they're following up with treatment, they're making their appointments as well. We also check on that. Treatment will actually send us an email and say, you know what, this person did not make their appointment today. Can you please check up on them? Make sure they're doing well, because that's a very big flag, very red flag as well, And our main focus is to keep the community safe. We want to make sure that, that people can go out there and enjoy their time without being afraid of getting, hit by a drunk driver. We got to keep them accountable.
Tell us, like, usually what would happen if somebody was violating the conditions of the program? Would they go back to court and explain?
Excellent question. Judge Anchondo is always available for us 24/7. I'm on the phone with him at 2, 3 in the morning. When I do find a participant that's violating, it's a serious violation, whether they're drinking or driving, I get on the phone. Straight call to Judge Anchondo. Judge, this is what I have. What do you suggest, or what do you recommend I do with this participant? Sometimes he'll say, you know what, place him under arrest immediately. And I'm able to have the arrest powers to take him in right then and there at that point, take him to county jail, hold him there till the judge sees him the next day, very next day. Sometimes he'll say, you know what, have him report to court tomorrow and I can address with him what the violation is immediately, Follow up with treatment, right now at this point, we have a treatment available that's 24/7, where they're able to call in and talk to somebody as well. So I'm able to give them that advice, you need to call treatment right now and start working through this violation right now at this moment.
About how many officers work with the program?
We have 3 officers, myself, being one of them. With the El Paso Police Department, I'm deputized, so I'm able to go out in the county as well and enforce the rules there and make arrests. And we also have a sheriff's deputy. And we have another officer that's hired by the court that's a peace officer as well. So there's 3 of us that are exclusive to this program.
Could you maybe talk a little bit about, I know that when I'm driving, and here there could be lay people that are watching our TV show. When it says no refusal DWI, what does that mean exactly?
Very good question, actually, yes. When we go out and arrest somebody for DWI, of course they do have a choice. They can refuse to give a specimen of their breath or blood, correct? At that point, right, they don't have to do anything, absolutely. They don't even have to do the standardized field sobriety test, right? Because that's their right, right? Well, the state has issued a new thing where we're able to get blood now, because blood has evidence of a crime, which is the alcohol in their system, right? So we're able to go to a judge and present that warrant, write it out, and if the judge says fits that he signs off on it, then we're able to take that specimen from them. That's why it's a new refusal now, because we're able to at least get something. But before, if they refuse breath, we wouldn't have anything other than how they acted there at the scene, what they said, or what we observed, right? But now we are at least able to take that the blood from them and have it sent for analysis.
And that would be more of an accurate sample of how much they've been drinking or what state they're in.
That's correct. That's all dependent upon the lab and what their analysis shows at the time of the.
And so when somebody's in their program, are there, I guess, tests that they do at home, or you send them to a facility, or?
We do both, actually.
Both?
We do.
Okay.
That's a very good question. We do both. As a matter of fact, the persons in the program, the participants in the program, actually have a portable device that they're testing, randomly as well, also. And then we go to their homes. We also have a portable breathalyzer test that we use to test them on. And most of them have, if they are driving, they have interlock ignition systems in their vehicles. So they have to provide a sample before they even start driving, correct? And we do get violation notices. If they are in violation, they'll send an email right away, and they'll let us know that this person, there's a violation, we need to address immediately.
And by that you mean that they have to blow before they're able to turn on the car?
Correct. We do take public safety very seriously in the program. And one of the requirements the judge has issued upon these participants, if they're going to be driving, they're going to have an interlock in their vehicle, of course. And that's why they have us there to check, make sure they're actually driving that vehicle that they're supposed to. I go through their records see they've been cited in other vehicles, see they've been driving. We also do surveillance as well, where we park maybe like 2 or 3 houses down the street, in an unmarked vehicle, and just to make sure that this person is actually doing what they're supposed to and driving the vehicle that they're supposed to.
I'm assuming that there's cost associated with the program. So are they able to do that in payments, or is that something that the county covers a percentage of?
No, they are coming into the program, they're assessed a program fee, and that's spread out during the 18 months. The program is designed for 18 months with 5 phases in it. So that's spread out because there's other things they'll be paying: the ignition interlock, the portable unit, fines, court costs, possibly restitution. There may be some other ancillary things that they're also paying. So we want to make it reasonable so that they have a payment plan throughout the process.
And so how much would like one of those interlocking mechanisms cost?
Oh, they can probably pay up to about $150 a month.
So they rent them to,
It's like rental.
okay.
Yeah, they don't get to keep it.
No,
Well,
unless they want to, keep paying them.
well, that could keep you honest, right? Like,
Well, testing is the key. When you have testing and you have treatment and you have reporting and you have requirements, then you start actually working on what the issue is with these folks. And we start really getting to the core of what the issue may be. So there's a lot of work that takes into effect from the beginning. But part of the testing is, of course, to make them know that we will get real-time information. And I'm saying real-time. So when he's talking about these units, it's real-time. If I want them to test right now, they'll test, I'll find out if it's a positive or a negative result. And so we're going to act quickly. Part of what we want to do is, of course, get to the core issue immediately. And that's very important.
and so it sounds like you have a really good case management approach, that you get to know the people in the program and their situation. Could you talk a little bit about what successes you've had, or I know you've had success, otherwise you wouldn't be a national model or a recognized program, but could you talk a little bit about the evaluations that you've done, or do you not see the people back in the court system?
Well, I'll take your question in a multifaceted way. Okay. But when you evaluate a program, you certainly are wanting to make an impact on the individual. That's number one. So everything that they'll be receiving throughout the program, from the time they come in, which is acute being severe, to the time they leave, which is now they're going to be, how do I make all of this work long term? Okay? We want to make sure they have those tools, that foundation of treatment, of reporting, and accountability to have success. So one is even a success. We're very proud that we probably have over 800 people that have graduated from the program, and about 87 to 90% do not return to the criminal justice system, do not repeat the behavior, not repeat. So we're trying to remove the drinking from the driving, making our community safe, making them safe, making their passengers safe, so that they have a wonderful life. And now they're reinvesting in themselves. So what we're trying to do is not only work with the individual, we also want to work with the support system and family members that may be experiencing the same problem. So we incorporate treatment plans, things that they can participate and learn about the illness, so that they're aware of it. Because in this kind of environment and culture, you can have an enabling person. You can have people saying they deny it. Oh, he's just having those things. So we're trying to educate people about this, that this is very serious. Because these are people that can actually kill. It doesn't take very long, right? So we want to make sure we take this seriously. We want to make sure they're families. We've also created a program, and I think that's what stands out from us being a good national model. Once they finish the initial portion of the program, which is 18 months, and they have a longer period of time on community supervision, we now have a program called Merit. So now what we're going to do is have them invest in their life, maybe better education, stability of a home, financial. They're now paying bills. They're not becoming a government liability, okay? They're now being independent. They're taking care of their family. They're taking care of their kids. Okay, we want to make them do that. So there are things that we haven't now invest in themselves, which would make them a better and long-term asset to this community, having them reoffend. You know, when we get recognitions, it's great. It's great, and we truly are humbled by that. It's a very competitive thing because we're going against national folks around the United States that have their own programs. What stands out for us is the quality of team members that I have. You're seeing 3 here, and there's 14 others. And so when I have a multidisciplinary team that are passionate about helping individuals change, helping families change, and we incorporate that and deliver that and convey that message, then we have great success. You know, we border Ciudad Juarez, New Mexico, so that metroplex is about 2.7 million. And so we have a lot of individuals. I don't think sometimes we hit everybody, but when you're a National Academy Court, we now provide the research that we do, and we get to teach it to other programs. So other people either come into El Paso to look at how our program runs, get the benefit of that so that they can maybe try that program or that model in their community. Because we have now virtual, they get to see us. From the other day, we had a group from Guam see us. So they got to see how we work. So that is what the essential is of being an Academy Court. Because of what we do, the quality of work that we do, we then get to share it with others so that they can also provide a good product in their community. And that's the good thing about being recognized, and we do appreciate that. But as I tell our people, I don't do it alone. I have a great team of individuals that share the same passion to make the individual change, have our community safe, and make these people not come back to the system.
And I think one of the important things about Judge is also education. He's very big on education. So he's getting us to training all the time. He's always looking for ways to send us to training to make sure we're able to help these individuals change their behavior as best as possible.
Perhaps with our culture in our community, drinking is very socially acceptable. But with some people, it becomes a problem if they can't stop, or if they do it daily, or binge drinking, especially with our young people. What would be a closing thought that each of you would have for people watching?
You know, we're going into graduations, and we want to celebrate with families about graduations. Folks are graduating, they're moving on, either right from high school forward or from college forward. We just want to make sure people understand that there's going to be drinking, but be very careful. You know, this drinking business can become a serious illness if it's not, the person's not made aware of it, or they are drinking and driving, because now they put the public at risk. So we want to make sure that people understand that the people that we deal with are the folks that maybe started with one, that's now led to many, and now they can't walk away from one. So we want to make sure people understand that the reason the program was created was to address those. We hope we don't have to address those, so our message is always to be mindful, not to drink and drive. Don't put yourself at risk, don't put your passengers at risk, and don't put the general public at risk. Because now when you come into the system, then you're coming into something that now we're going to be intervening in the life of individuals. But we don't want to have any more tragedies. We already have enough. And so the thing is to celebrate, enjoy that moment, just don't drink and drive.
That's a wonderful message to leave off on our show, to celebrate responsibly, and not only the cost to yourself, but you could kill somebody. And so, you know, be responsible, make plans before you celebrate too much. Thank you, Judge Anchondo. Thank you, Ms. Potts, Ms. Esparza. Officer Ferrel, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I'm Dr. Peregrino, and this is Entre Nosotras, Latina Voices.